Imagine someone you love dies today. Not next year. Not when you're prepared. Today. Now remove everything. No coffin. No shovel. No cemetery. No funeral home. No heirse. No priest. No machine. No metal. No written language. No civilization. No town. No village. Nothing. Just you, a body, and the growing realization that nature is already beginning to reclaim the person lying in front of you. What do? Because for hundreds of thousands of years, every human who ever lived had to answer that question. And here's the strange part. The answer may reveal the exact moment our ancestors became truly human. Not because they learned how to make better tools. Not because they learned how to hunt. Not because they mastered fire. But because they learned how to say goodbye. And when archaeologists began digging into some of humanity's oldest graves, they found evidence so surprising that it completely changed how we think about our ancestors. Think about the challenge for a moment. How do you bury someone when you barely have tools? How do you dig through frozen ground? How do you move a body over rough terrain? How do you spend hours on the dead when every hour not spent hunting could mean starvation? And perhaps the biggest question of all, why bother? Why would ancient humans spend precious energy caring for people who could no longer contribute to the group's survival? It seems irrational. Until you realize that humans have never been purely rational creatures. And the deeper archaeologists looked into the past, the stranger the story became. In northern Iraq sits a place called Shanidar Cave. Inside that cave, archaeologists discovered something astonishing. The remains of a Neanderthal. Not a modern human, a Neanderthal. A species often portrayed as primitive, brutish, and barely capable of complex thought. But this skeleton appeared to have been deliberately buried. And around the body, researchers found traces of pollen, flowers, or at least evidence suggesting flowers may have been present. Think about that. For decades, popular culture told us Neanderthals were little more than cave-dwelling survival machines. Yet here was evidence that one of them may have been laid to rest with care, possibly even with ceremony. And suddenly, a disturbing possibility emerged. What if compassion is far older than civilization? What if mourning is older than agriculture? What if grief itself helped make us human? And Shanidar was only the beginning. For most of human history, there may have been no burials at all. Imagine the earliest human ancestors. No rituals, no cemeteries, no monuments. When someone died, their body may simply have been left where it fell. Predators would find it. Scavengers would find it. Nature would reclaim it. Harsh, but practical. And for thousands upon thousands of years, that may have been enough. Which makes what happened next one of the most important changes in human history. At some point, someone decided that wasn't enough anymore. The earliest known burials are astonishingly old. Far older than cities. Far older than writing. Far older than history itself. These ancient humans had no steel, no iron, no machinery, sometimes not even proper stone tools. So how did they bury their dead? The answer is simple. With their hands, with sticks, with animal bones, with whatever they could find. And if you've ever tried digging even a small hole in hard ground, you know how difficult that is. Now, imagine digging a grave without a shovel, without gloves, without modern tools. It would have taken hours, possibly days, an enormous investment of energy. Which raises a question. If survival was so difficult, why keep doing it? Why repeatedly spend precious effort on the dead? The answer may have had nothing to do with the dead at all. It may have been about the living. Then archaeologists began finding something unusual. Ancient graves stained red. Not with blood, with pigment, red ochre, a natural mineral ground into powder. Bodies were covered with it, sometimes entirely, sometimes carefully arranged around them. And nobody knows exactly why. But many researchers believe it symbolized life, blood, rebirth, renewal. Think about what that means. These people weren't simply disposing of bodies. They were creating meaning. They were telling stories. They were expressing hope. Perhaps for the first time in history, humans were confronting a terrifying reality. Death is permanent, and they were trying to make sense of it. Then the burials became even stranger. Archaeologists started finding objects buried alongside the dead. Weapons, tools, jewelry, shells, animal teeth, food. Sometimes objects that had taken weeks or months to create. Valuable possessions, things the living desperately needed, and yet they gave them away to someone who could no longer use them. At first glance, it makes no sense. But there's only one reason to bury useful possessions with a dead person. You believe they still need them, somewhere. Somehow, whether that was an afterlife, the spirit world, or something else entirely, we can't know. But what we do know is this: the human imagination had expanded beyond the visible world. Death was no longer an ending. It was becoming a journey. And then came Egypt. If early burials were whispers, Egypt turned them into a roar. The Egyptians didn't just bury their dead. They built entire civilizations around death. Massive tombs, elaborate rituals, mummification, sacred texts, preparation for eternity. For the Egyptians, death wasn't the opposite of life. It was another phase of it, and preserving the body became essential. The journey after death was just as important as the life before it. Think about how far humanity had come. A species that once scratched graves into dirt with sticks was now constructing monuments that still dominate the horizon thousands of years later. The dead had become powerful enough to shape entire societies. But not everyone buried their dead the same way. Some cultures placed bodies in caves. Others placed them in trees. Some left them exposed to birds and nature. Others returned bones to family sites long after decomposition. Across the world, humans invented countless ways to handle death. Different methods, different beliefs, different rituals. Yet one pattern kept appearing. Respect, again and again. Across continents, across thousands of years, across cultures that never met. Humans kept treating death as something meaningful. It's easy to imagine ancient humans as crude survivalists, people too busy finding food to care about philosophy, too busy avoiding predators to think about mortality. But the evidence tells a different story. Some of the earliest humans we know of spent valuable time mourning, valuable energy burying, valuable resources honoring the dead. They weren't merely surviving. They were remembering. And memory is a surprisingly sophisticated thing. Because this story isn't really about graves, it's about love. Think about it. Why carry a body for miles? Why dig a grave without proper tools? Why give away valuable possessions? Why spend precious hours on rituals? The practical answer is that none of those things improve survival. The human answer is that grief doesn't care about efficiency. Love has never been efficient, and perhaps that's the point. The dead could no longer help the group survive. But they still mattered. At some point, burial became more than disposal. It became memory. Then memory became ritual. Then ritual became belief. Then belief became religion. Then religion became civilizations. In a strange way, some of humanity's greatest achievements may trace back to a single question. What happens after we die? And no matter how advanced we became, we never stopped asking it. Here's what archaeologists keep finding. Different cultures, different continents, different eras, different languages, different beliefs. Yet the same behavior appears over and over. Humans refuse to simply discard their dead. Again and again, we create rituals. Again and again, we preserve memory. Again and again, we insist that a person's value does not disappear when their heartbeat stops. That pattern is so universal that it may be one of the defining traits of our species. And before we laugh at ancient burial rituals, consider what we still do today. We place flowers on graves. We hold funerals. We build monuments. We keep photographs. We save belongings. We tell stories. We gather together to remember. The technology has changed. The instinct hasn't. Ancient humans used ochre. We use marble. Ancient humans dug graves by hand. We use machines. Ancient humans held ceremonies around fires. We hold them in churches and funeral homes. But beneath all of it lies the same impulse, the same need, the same refusal to let someone vanish without acknowledgement. So how did ancient humans bury their dead without tools? Sometimes with their hands, sometimes with sticks, sometimes with astonishing determination. But that's not the most interesting answer. The more interesting answer is why they did it. From the first shallow graves, to reed ochre burials, to ancient tombs, to modern cemeteries, the real story was never about digging holes. It was about meaning. It was about memory. It was about the extraordinary human ability to care for someone even when caring no longer offers any practical reward. People often ask what separates humans from other animals. Is it language? Is it intelligence? Is it technology? Maybe. But maybe one of the answers lies buried beneath our feet. Maybe humanity began the moment someone looked at a person who could no longer help them survive and decided they still deserved to be remembered. The first grave wasn't evidence of death. It was evidence of love,